Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Death toll from the attack on communities in Basa local government area of Plateau State rises to 9 as another attack on Bokos Council reportedly leaves about 10 persons dead. Former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo seeks thorough probe of the root cause of the herders-farmers crisis in the country as he visits Benue State. Parents of abducted Pt.2 schoolgirls, hopeful of their children's return, say they are confident that government's approach will yield the desired results. South African food producer Tiger Brand to face class action lawsuit over the death of almost 200 persons from hysteria outbreak in the country. ChannelsTV.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from your respective stores. Besides giving you access to news and updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app has an eyewitness feature that you can use to share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. Reactions continue to trail the low ranking of Nigeria in the latest Corruption Perception Index for 2017, compiled by Transparency International. In that ranking, Nigeria placed 148 out of 180 countries, behind other African countries like Malawi, Sierra Leone, Gambia, and others, showing deterioration in perception of corruption in public administration in Nigeria compared to 2016. This has led to many questioning the efforts and successes that the current administration claims to be making in the fight against corruption. This special report looks at the reaction to the latest rankings.
In Nigeria, corruption is a pressing issue, and the fight against corruption is one of the principal agenda items of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. In February 2018, Transparency International released its Corruption Perceptions Index for 2017, showing a high corruption burden in more than 2/3 of the 180 countries surveyed. Reacting to Nigeria's ranking of 148 out of 180 countries surveyed, the president, through his senior special assistant on media and publicity, Malam Garba Shehu, questioned the criteria or facts used by the organization to arrive at what he described as very misleading and unfair conclusions in its assessment of the federal government's efforts in the anti-corruption crusade. The vice president's reaction was, however, more hopeful than dismissive, stating that the rating should not in any way be seen as a setback, but rather as an opportunity to continue building on the many successes already recorded by the government. He also believes that the full effect of government's efforts would eventually be clearly seen and perceived. Some lawmakers have also expressed their views. While some question the ranking, others believe certain factors which can be identified are responsible for the drop in ranking.
I think I want to believe that the rating is not correct, it's not sincere.
I'm actually surprised that we are said to have dropped. I know that this government have done so much in terms of fighting war against corruption. This is a wake-up call for us. Yes, let us look at what these people are saying. Let us not condemn.
There are a lot of things that have happened. Even the list of appointees of the president, his recruits were not diligent enough to make sure that that list is a decent and acceptable one.
But just how do Nigeria's labor and civil society organizations see this rating?
I think it's a wake-up call. We have done some effort, but I think we are not yet there. And clearly speaking, I think it also supports and reinforces what Labour have been saying, because we must fight corruption holistically.
We've stagnated around this position of 27-28% for the last couple couple of years, and now we've lost much footing during an era of an administration that is committed to fighting corruption. So for me, it is a wake-up call.
The Transparency International's 2017 Corruption Perceptions Index has been widely credited with putting the issue of anti-corruption on the forefront of international policy agenda setting. However, in Nigeria, while reactions to the report may differ, one thing is clear. The index has thrown up for review the successes and shortcomings of the country's fight against corruption.
Residents of Asaba, the Delta State capital in South Nigeria, have been asked to be patient over the temporary closure of Nnebisi Road, a major bus and car route in the state. The Delta State governor, who explained that the closure is to make way for construction of storm drainages, assured residents that the completion of the project would bring an end to flooding in the state capital.
Houses taken over by floodwaters, schools inaccessible owing to the same fate. Okpanam Road appears to be the worst hit, with Miriam Babangida Road coming in a close second. To avoid a recurrence, the Delta State government re-awarded the contract for the total rehabilitation and construction of some parts of Okpanam Road. In the contract is a provision for storm drainage, which should channel floodwaters directly to the River Niger. But it comes at a price: the closure of the famous Nnebisi Road for the next 2 weeks. The governor of the state is here to make sure work on the project is on schedule.
We must all be patient. We must partner with ourselves. It is for the good of the people. It is for the good of Asaba, and it's for the good of the government. Of course, there will be some pain, but without that, we will not be able to take out the stormwater of this area. So they should please be patient with us. I know that I've been told that this road is closed for 2 weeks. And I'm very sure that by 2 weeks they will be able to recover the site.
The governor is impressed with the pace of work on the roads and at the airport. He promises that on completion, the project will give the capital a facelift.
More stories now. Canada will continue to watch Nigeria's security space to identify areas of cooperation and provide support where necessary. The Canadian High Commissioner reiterated this while leading a delegation of the Commander of the Canadian Royal Navy to the office of the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Ibok Ibas. Meanwhile, a ship with a crew of 16 Ukrainians has been arrested for suspected illegal oil trade in River State.
The visit of the commander of the Royal Canadian Navy to Nigeria, Vice Admiral Ron Lloyd, is a mark of a thriving military relationship between both countries. The flag officer commanding the Western Naval Command receives the delegation, which also has the Canadian High Commissioner.
By the time we exchange our members, that is part of the military, coming to study your military institution and you too sending your own to our institution, you begin to understand the black culture.
The team have done their homework, and we think that this is the first time the Royal Canadian Navy has visited Nigeria, which speaks to the relationships of our two nations.
Not done yet, the team moves to the Naval Hub, Sikui, where the Chief of Naval Staff is hosting them to a closed-door meeting. While understanding the maritime terrain of the Gulf of Guinea is a determinant of what military support system that can be deployed, areas of cooperation have also been identified after the meeting.
We had to discuss the issues of maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea and trying to figure out how like other nations that have the interest of Nigeria and the Nigerian Navy in particular, how we can better build partnerships and bonds, that will enable us to better fight the challenges we have at sea.
So certainly we're there for Nigeria, and we recognize that Nigeria is a major force in Africa. It's the biggest country, the most populous country, the biggest economy. So we watch Nigeria very closely, and we view ourselves as very important and close partners.
While he returns to Canada, 2 Royal Canadian Navy vessels are on standby to participate alongside Nigerian vessels in an exercise to keep the maritime sphere safer and secure. Meanwhile, in Rivers State, a vessel with 16 Ukrainians suspected to be involved in illegal oil trade have been arrested by the forward operating base of the Navy. The commanding officer says the vessel had product without proper documentation.
MT San Pedro Pao was arrested in our maritime environment. He was engaged in illegal trading activities that contravene our national law, especially the cabotage law.
The suspects have since been handed over to the operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for further investigation.
One spectacular natural phenomenon you'll see whenever you visit Ondo State in southwest of Nigeria is located in the ancient town of Idori. The Idori Hills sit 3,000 meters above sea level. It has huge potential for the country's tourism industry, if properly developed, that is, by the authorities for the benefits of Nigerians and foreigners. The report.
The ancient town of Idori in Ondo State, southwest Nigeria. Perhaps the most spectacular feature in the town are the Idori Hills, a tourist site that echoes the glorious past of the Idori Kingdom and the huge potential it poses even in the present day, if properly harnessed. As one climbs higher to the summit of the hills, some 682 concrete steps, one can see a clearer picture of the present Idori while looking several distances down. The tour guide at the hills speaks on the history of the town, which started over 8 centuries ago on the hills, and now to its present location on the ground, owing to the rising population.
The existence of Idori Kingdom is over 800 years ago, and they were there for several years. And the moving down to this present location now, as in when they actually moved down to this present location, they have 2 different batches that moved down in some years back. The very first set of people moved down in 1928. The second set of people moved down in 1933.
The tour guide then leads our crew to see some different features on the hills, including the Dagunro spot, where the people used to stand to fortify the town back then. Other interesting points include the prison yard, the customary court, the mausoleum, a river which served as a source of water, and the old palace. The big stone used to test the physical strength of bachelors is also of note. These children look so delighted to be seen via our cameras as well. Some tourists who have visited the hills say they appreciate its serenity and want the site to be well taken care of, to serve as a huge tourist attraction to Nigeria and indeed the world.
This place should have a functional website that anybody in the world can search for mountains and hills or tourist attractions in Nigeria and see it firsthand. So if they can manage it like this and have it exposed to the world, that's my advice to them.
I'm coming from Bulgaria. I'm coming to Nigeria especially for tourism. And I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. And it's so sad that there is no much advertisement about Nigeria. It's so beautiful country. Yeah, and food is very beautiful too.
The Idori Hills is certainly a place worthy of visit. It's qualified to be listed among the UNESCO World Heritage Sites and capable of attracting tourists all over the world, provided government gives it the needed attention to boost the nation's tourism industry.
Beautiful place, beautiful people, beautiful country. When the News at 10 returns, we'll take a look at the renewed interest in Africa by the US, Russia and China. We'll have a career diplomat, Ambassador Akin Fayomi, in our Abuja studios to give his perspective on this. Join us again.